Howdy, and welcome to the Choose a Happy Day show, a podcast for women who want to up-level their life, manifest those dreams, and just live happier. If you have vision boards, love energy work, are into psychics, and feel you are meant for something more in this life, then this show is for you. Hi, I'm Lorraine Toth, an award-winning filmmaker, author, Reiki master, photographer, and creative genius who also loves to vision board. And I am here to bring you all of the tips and tricks to help you up-level your life. Now let's go and hop on that happy train.
So hello and welcome back to the Choose a Happy Day show. Today I am joined by a very special guest, Leiah Bowden. Woo! So Leiah, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our crowd because, wow, I was blown away.
Okay, so we met at Sense Energy and Wellness Center in Schenectady on Rosa Road.
Yes.
Because you were interested in having me do a soul journey energy portrait of you. And you must have thought, what the is that?
I had no idea.
Okay, so what I do is I'm a lifelong intuitive. And it really, all it is my parents never shut me down. All of us are born intuitive, curious, and completely able to make sense of the world, except that, our parents, our teachers, whatever other organizations and people who have power over us, they say, oh, no, that's not true. You shouldn't think that. Think this instead.
Yes.
Well, my parents never did that. So I've been a lifelong intuitive, and among my intuitive services is these soul energy portraits, which are audio visual recordings, psychic readings, as it were, of the energy that I see floating around and coming from within your authentic energy being. You, as you exist throughout the cosmos, because we all exist throughout the cosmos, not just in these bodies.
Yes.
So that's what I do. So I did the portrait of you, and then we got to chatting, and we decided it would be fun to do this.
And here we are a week later.
Here we are, right.
So to describe to the audience what it was like, it was basically I just sat there with my eyes closed and you read almost like my aura, right? And kind of intuitive, aka psychic, right? Reading of me and my soul.
Yep.
Okay. And the way I described you to my friends was a mixture of Bob Ross with Esther Hicks from Abraham Hicks.
I love both of them.
Yes. So it was really cool that you were almost like channeling like Esther
I
channels
was
Abraham.
channeling.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't channeling Abraham.
Right.
I was channeling you. Because you and everybody else have wisdom, highest wisdom. But we close it off.
Yes.
Well, what happens when we get into the situation in the sacred space in which I send up to my highest possible perceptive level. And because human beings are mirroring beings, you send up also. And so what I'm doing is I am simply seeing what your divine self looks like and hears like, and I chant, sing, and speak the guidance that you are presenting to me. I know it sounds incredible, but that's really what it is.
It was incredible. And my colors were pinks and greens, and then my friend Franca, hers was more blues. So,
well, we did different chakras. In a full energy portrait, I start at the top of your crown chakra, which someone recently told me has another name, but the names don't matter. It's the highest I can see. Way up there, about 10 feet above your head. And then I would have described your third eye chakra, and then your throat chakra, and then your heart chakra, and then your solar plexus, and then your second chakra, and then your root. But since we only had a limited time, I was only looking at one chakra. So I think I must have done your heart chakra.
You did. That's what I asked for.
That's right, because that was that was pink.
Yes.
And other people's chakras, the natural colors are different. So that's why they're different.
Oh, well, that was fascinating. And how long have you been in the spiritual space?
All my life.
Oh.
Because, no, really, it's a serious answer. I was fortunate that I never was closed down. I never learned to distrust my intuition. And so I was always saying yes to, ooh, what's that over there? And I had an innate sense that if going over there was not good for me, I would pull back.
Yes.
I learned to recognize my own signals, not that someone else said, never trust anyone wearing a red hat, you know, or never trust anyone with this or that.
Yes.
I learned to develop my own sense of security. And so I've seen all life as sacred, and I've felt sacred all my life.
Yes.
But I've been doing this work, if perhaps that's what you were
That's what I meant. Yes.
I've been doing this work since, well, I guess the first portrait I did in 1998.
Oh, wow.
1998. But I had begun receiving what I call downloads of words, symbols, series, or even gestures that I had to do since 1974.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so 50 years basically.
Oh my heavens, yes.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm still new. I consider myself to this space, and in a decade now, so 10 years with energy awareness and Reiki and rituality.
Yeah.
So I just look to you like, wow, you know.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yes, inspiration, I guess.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I'll take it.
So before we get into my main question today, you were speaking of learning to trust your own inner guidance. So since this podcast is about happiness and true, authentic, is there a way our listeners can tap in at home, like to their own intuitive guidance, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think the best way to tap into a person's own intuitive guidance is to begin, let's say tomorrow. Today is too much already.
Yes.
Let's say tomorrow. Let's say you have no idea what your intuition really feels like. When you wake up in the morning, before you get out of bed, before you start thinking, I have to do this and this and this and this, close your eyes and think, how do I feel? And then become aware of whatever answer there is. That answer might be a memory. It might be a song that goes through your head. It might be, I have an itch here. It might be anything, but take it as it is and say, oh, okay. And then I'd say every hour, stop and check in. Maybe look at the cup of coffee you're holding and think, how long has it been since I've been drinking coffee? What's my memory about coffee? Tune into yourself and your honest responses and opinions. And I would suggest also not listening to the news.
Yes.
Not only that day, but ever.
I completely 100%. I refuse to read the news, watch the news, anything. I feel it's bad energy. It's negative.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because I once had a conversation with a man in a suit in the NBC building in New York City. I was a member of a group called Transform Media. We wanted the media to report the news, but do it in a positive way.
Yes.
Like the house is burning, not how do you feel that you've lost everything, Mrs. Jones? But look at all the neighbors coming out to help you. Isn't that wonderful?
Oh, I love that.
And so, yes, the news, and he said, well, that's what's normal. We don't report what's normal. We want to report what's unusual. And that tends to be bad news. But because we are mirroring individuals, we say, oh, that must be normal. I'm going to go do that now, which means yelling, feeling scared, being scared. So take that away. And I know that's a radical move for most people, but I don't watch the news.
Yeah, I don't either. So I fully agree with you there.
And, I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. We know what we need to know, right?
I think my friends will tell me when it's time to evacuate. But I vote.
Yes.
That is very important.
Yes, me as well. Tuesday, it's coming up. Woo! All right. So my main question. So I was telling everyone about you, and I was fascinated listening to one of the podcasts you did. I think it was 2 years ago. And you were talking about how you can communicate with animals.
Oh, yeah.
And I've never talked about anything like that on my podcast. So I wanted to have you be the first.
Great. Okay.
Yes.
So all life has consciousness.
Yes.
Animals have consciousness. All life has soul.
Okay.
Animals have a soul. There are theological arguments that I'm not going to get into about the definition of soul, but let's just think of it as consciousness that goes beyond the awareness of the body and beyond the awareness of emotions. So I was once working in a barn taking care of horses because when my son went to college, I sat on his bed and I cried. I said, ugh, okay, I need horses. I found horses. In the tack room was a book on tape. This was a long time ago. This was 1994, something like that.
Yeah, back with cassettes, right?
Back with cassettes, that's right. And so I picked it up. I brought it home, how to listen, how to communicate with animals. There were 5 simple steps. And so I did the 5 simple steps. And the next day I went into the barn and I was brushing this beautiful bay mare whose name was Springer, who was quite pregnant. And she was best friends, like joined at the hip, with another mare who was pregnant. The other mare was Allie, and she was an experienced mother. So I'm brushing Springer and I say, as I always did, oh, Springer, you're looking good. Your baby's growing. It's so wonderful. And I heard in a voice just like this, I don't want this baby. Like this was a human voice because it was in my head.
Right.
And it was shocking. I thought, oh my gosh, this is real. I have to respond real. No. And she said, I said, why is that? And she said, because Allie told me it's not good to have foals.
Oh,
wow. So I continued, and then I brought her back, and I brought Allie in, put her in the cross ties, began, Allie, Springer tells me you said it's not good to have foals. Why is that? And she said, because they leave you. Well, they were brood mares. Yes. They were bred to have foals, which were then sold.
Right. Yeah.
They were taken. Well, that was my first foray into animal communication. And so that taught me that there is real emotion. There is something as calling to me as when a human person would have said that to me. And that's when I started. And so I love it because it opens me up to a world of authentic being. Yes. Animals, humans have an ego, and an ego is not bad. It's what keeps us from putting our hand in the fire. You know, it's what keeps us from doing things that are bad for us. But the ego is also the filter that says, how do I really think about that? How do I want to present myself? What will I say? Shall I lie? Shall I not lie? Animals don't have egos. No, they are 100% real all the time. And when you tune in to the higher vibration of that animal, as I do, because that's what I enjoy. All right, I enjoy the higher vibrations. So when I tune into the higher vibrations, I'm not only getting, I don't like my food, my left hip hurts, etc. I'm getting the gift of the soul. I'm getting animals who talk about their purpose in life. And like dogs and horses, I know for sure they need jobs. Yes. There may be other animals that frequently say they need jobs. I'm not aware of that. But so that's a very helpful thing to know. I read a couple of horses for someone at a rehabilitation facility. And she later told me that it was really helpful to know that this horse wanted to pull a cart. This horse wanted someone to be on its back riding and galloping. And likewise with dogs. People get dogs because, well, for many reasons, sometimes because they're cute. And they don't realize that cuteness is not the dog's idea of who it is. Right. That the dog may need to be a watchdog. The dog may need to guard the territory and be fierce to protect the person. Sometimes people will say, why is my dog continuing to bark? And I'll ask the dog, and the dog will say, because she doesn't get out of her chair. She needs to get out. I'm fine, says the dog, but my person is not. It's wonderful work. And I also communicate with dogs and people who have passed. And then the messages are really wonderful because they are coming from the divine. They're coming from the point of view of the sanctity, the beauty, and the radiance of all life.
All right. So when you were talking to Allie and Springer, right, were you saying it aloud? Like,
no,
Allie,
it's in my head. I'm thinking it.
So the horse can hear your thoughts?
Yes,
Is
it's
that how it
all
works?
done by telepathy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So I know my listeners will ask, how can I do this at home? So say their dog is barking and it just seems depressed. How can they talk to their dog?
Okay, I'm going to give you the, I don't know, 5 or 6
Okay.
steps or whatever
Yes.
it was that I learned.
Mhm.
And I have to apologize to everybody, including especially the person who wrote the book that I listened to on tape. I
Mhm.
didn't think to write it down.
Oh,
In fact, I wrote a book that is currently at a publisher's, and
yes.
I don't know when it's going to be produced.
Mhm.
And in the book, I apologize as well. But here's what she said. Let's say that you have an animal, let's say a dog who's right here,
Okay.
and your hand is kind of near the dog,
Mhm.
not necessarily on the dog, but it's real close. First of all, you think of the word hello in your own head.
Just think
Now,
it. Don't
think
say
it.
Okay.
Now, think it. And the font, Times New Roman, Helvetica, Calibri, 11, 12, 15,
Mhm.
whatever it is, think that font.
Okay.
See it in your head.
Uh-huh.
Like imagine what the inside of your head looks like and imagine that word, hello, in that particular font. Make it as real as possible.
Okay.
That's the quote, quote, trick. You
Yes.
have to make it as real as possible. Then you see the word on your forehead, hello, in that same font.
Mhm.
See it, the edges, the sharp edges, right there. Then you see it on your nose, right there, sticking up, hello. And so it's right there. Then you see it on your chin, hello. Then you see it on your shoulder. Same thing, got to keep on seeing every place. You have to see that font, real.
Uh-huh.
Then it's on your elbow. Then it's sitting on your hand, and you say hello. And then you see that word jump onto your animal's head.
Oh.
Here's the hard part. Whatever you experience next is the dog's or cat's or horses or sheep's
Mhm.
response.
Okay.
Have you ever played Trivial Pursuit?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know about you, but with me,
Uh-huh.
my first think is always correct.
Yes.
Like, what's the answer to blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
And then you think, oh no, it couldn't be that.
But it was that.
It was that. This is the trick. It's not a trick. I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody and you. It's not a trick. Technique. The technique is that you must respond fully to your own grasp, however it feels, of what comes next. If you hear a word, well, great. Then you can continue to have a conversation.
Mhm.
If you feel a memory coming on, then you can say to the dog, oh, I'm thinking of this memory. Is that what you were trying to say? And then you just keep on going with however you feel a response. That's it.
Okay.
It-
So would my hand be there on the door and near the dog, and the dog is like, I'm sad that you left me for 8 hours today.
That's right. And you say, I am so terribly sorry. I'm going to try to do something about that. Now, here's the catch.
Uh-huh.
Once you know what your animal wants
Mhm.
and you don't do it,
Oh.
then it's like if I said to you, Lorraine, how can I make you happy?
Uh-huh.
And you said, well, I'd really like an antique Thunderbird. And I said, well,
Very close.
fat chance. Then are you ever going to trust me again? If I
you
say,
promise
if
to
I
give it to
promise,
me and you
yeah.
didn't.
I mean, no, it's a real relationship.
Mhm.
And that's often sometimes that people are not prepared for that. It's a real relationship. The animals that we have in our life are not, in fact, there for our convenience.
Uh-huh.
They are there because we've made a soul contract with them to regard them as sacred,
Uh-huh.
to take care of them, and to be attentive to their needs.
Okay.
And if that's not why you have an animal, you might be having problems with your animal.
And maybe it's time to find it a new home.
Find it a new
Okay.
home or change because
yeah.
the animal loves you.
Yes.
And so that might be a way to say, gee, I've always wanted to spend more time at home, or I should get out and walk. And if you need to leave the animal alone for 8 hours, then you do need to find some way to help the animal feel less neglected.
Okay.
Because they do.
Yes. So say someone has their pet puppy who passed away. How do they talk to it since they can't touch the dog?
Then it's all in the head. Then
Okay.
you look at I would
picture.
recommend look at a picture of the
Uh-huh.
dog, remember the dog, hold the dog's collar. I still have the collar of my dog who passed away 40 years
Rosie,
ago.
right?
Rosie is one of them, but
Okay.
I'm thinking of Gabriel.
Oh, I
who
didn't
was-
know about Gabriel.
Gabriel, right. Gabriel was 3 dogs before Rosie. Yeah. And so one way is to hold something that the dog wore or you used to use with the dog and just bring the dog into your consciousness and imagine the love that you have for the dog and just think of it.
Okay,
You know,
and then channel that energy.
channel
of
that energy,
the,
right.
the pet, even though it's in another world. so
That's
to speak.
right. That's right. In another dimension, certainly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you get messages from passed on
Oh,
animals?
Oh, always.
Is it more like, I'm okay, don't worry about me?
Yes, it's
Okay.
usually, I'm okay, don't worry about me. I always ask someone, what would you like to know? Because if someone says, I don't know, I just want to know if they're okay,
Yeah.
then I say to the animal, so and so would love to know how you're doing. And sometimes the dog is there herding little puppies or parading around a ground or holding space or watching the sky, or they have an idea of what they're doing.
Okay.
And if I'll say, do you have a message for your person? And the message usually is just tell them how much I appreciated them and tell them not to worry. And often I'll also get messages that sometimes to me feel intrusive, like, oh my goodness, this person didn't know I was going to be giving them marriage counseling information. Because sometimes the information will be something like, know that not every relationship is perfect. Know that sometimes you need to assert yourself more, or you need to back off, or you need to offer blah, 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 blah. Because the animals are still watching out for their person and have intimate knowledge of what is working in this person's life and what is not working.
Wow,
That
is fascinating.
Yeah, that's really good. But you know what? No one has ever said, how dare you? They've always said, always said, oh yeah, that rings true.
Wow. Okay. So I just want to clarify for our listeners. So it would be like a passed on dog said to you, hey, maybe this relationship shouldn't work out. Is that what you
No,
mean?
they don't say it just like that.
They say not
But
everyone's.
they'll say, let's say you had asked me what was difficult about my dog's last days.
Okay. Yeah.
And the dog might say, well, it was difficult that there was so much tension in the house.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Yeah.
But frankly, that kind of message about relationships, that's usually from animals who are in the house at the time, not so much from animals who have passed on. Animals who have passed on tend to focus more on the unconditional love that they feel and that all the universe is. There are a lot of messages about the soaring nature of the soul and how if we cared for each other more, the world would be a better place.
Yes. Okay. Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is great.
So I had a couple more questions
Okay.
for you. So how to ask your spirit for guidance. You asked spirit if you should wait for your book publisher. I was reading and hearing. So what is that? So how can maybe our listeners ask spirit for guidance on a decision?
There are so many ways to tap into spirit. Tapping into spirit is the same as listening to yourself. First, you have to find something that helps you quiet down, that helps you get whatever is troubling you or taking up most of the space in your head to take a rest. Now, there is a guided, I love doing guided visualizations. And so years ago, I learned from a woman named Joanne Marie Everett at the International Women's Writing Guild conference in Saratoga Springs many years ago, a technique that I have since used. And here's the technique. You begin to do your own little meditation and you imagine that you have a judge. Maybe the judge wears a wig or a collar and looks like Ruth Bader Ginsburg or not, or looks like your father or your older brother or sister, the judge, whoever the judge is. And you say, Judge, I'm going to lead you into this incredibly gorgeous bedroom with this incredibly comfortable bed. And it's time for you to take a little nap. And I appreciate everything you do for me. But right now, I need to be by myself. And so you imagine that you put your judge to bed so gently, so nicely, and you promised you're going to come back and bring the judge back. Because the judge is your ego.
Right.
And so then you imagine that you're in a lovely space. Now, I do find that it's helpful to actually listen to a guided visualization, and there are lots of them out there. And to listen to someone else helping you, or you can do it for yourself, record it and then listen to it. Imagine that you're in a beautiful space. Your body is completely relaxed. You imagine a beautiful light coming into you, filling you from the earth, filling you from the heavens, and you rise up and you're in a lovely white bubble. And you go into this beautiful white bubble, and then you find yourself on a beautiful path, and it can be a wooded path, an ocean, a beach, anything you like, and you find yourself in a lovely space, and there's a beautiful, beautiful, radiant being standing in front of you, and you forgot that you invited this beautiful being to be with you, and you say, oh, and that being may be someone you love currently in life or out of life, or it might be Lady Gaga, or it might be someone you really would love to meet. George Michael, whoever. And then you say to this being, I'm so glad you're here. And you sit down and you're together and you say to the being, I would love to be able to be more anything, happy, successful, feeling at peace. Do you have any guidance for me? So it's helpful if you imagine a source of wisdom. It's pretty hard for us humans to go on thinking of things without form. We are geared to thinking of things in form because we're in form. Right. So, and then you listen and you imagine. Now, some people don't see anything when they close their eyes in a guided visualization. Some people hear or feel. Some people are more kinetic. And so it might be how their bodies feel at the moment or what they hear. Maybe it's a song. Maybe the song is, Oh, Happy Day, which I love. Then you think, oh, happy day. Well, what's that about? It's really about having faith. It's about looking toward a larger, brighter presence in your life. And there are many ways to interpret this, but that's my answer.
Okay. So to break it down for them, they're basically putting their ego aside.
Yes.
And they're looking to a mentor or a guru.
Or an inspiration of some sort.
For an answer to their question.
Yes. Yeah, it's just all in the imagination.
Okay.
So never say, oh, it's just your imagination, because your imagination is the place where everything begins.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Oh, I love that. All right. I have time for one more question for you. So since this is about happiness, my question here was ways to live a happier life. Ways that the listener can know if they're on the right path. Do they have the right soulmate? Do they have the right career? Are they living in the right city? Because you are an example of that. You left New York and now you're in California.
Yeah.
So how can they tune in to know if they're on the right path?
How do you feel? When you wake up in the morning, when you come home at night, how do you feel?
Okay.
If you're feeling dissatisfied, then pay attention to that. And again, put yourself in a quiet space, both physically and mentally, and listen to some music that makes you feel wonderful. When I was in my 20s and I was depressed, I listened to Kenny Rankin's Dolphin. I don't even know if you can find that anywhere anymore. But there was this one piece of music that made me feel better. Put yourself in a better space and do it without substance or drink. Just do it with your feeling. Maybe take a hot bath. Something that relaxes you. Take a walk in nature. First, find what makes you smile, what makes you feel, and then say, how can I do more of this? And do not listen to the news. Do not listen to the news. You can get the news that you need to know in other ways. It is the immediacy of the visuals that is so glamorous and attracts us and makes our stomachs clench. Don't do what makes your stomach clench. If you have a personal relationship that is important to you and it is so difficult and it makes your stomach clench, you have to find a way to deal with it. But other than that, no. Stay away from things that make you miserable.
Is that how you chose to leave New York?
No. I was very happy. I had a great house. I had many, many, many friends in Schenectady, which is where I was born and grew up. But my son and daughter-in-law had a baby in San Francisco.
That's why.
So
Okay.
that was a no-brainer.
Oh yeah, to be around the grandbaby.
To be around, right.
Oh, I love
right.
that. All right, perfect. All right, so your book, I saw your book cover. It's like a white rose, right, with a horse and you kind of coming out of the bud of the flower.
Well,
Is that correct?
yes, I designed the
Okay.
book cover, and I don't know if the publisher is going to go with that cover or not. That's the cover that my agent put on.
Mhm.
I mean, I designed it, but he put it on. It's called, what's it called? How Animals' Words. Can you believe it? I cannot remember the name of the book.
We'll link it on
We
your
will
website.
link it.
So I'll link it in the show
Right.
notes, everyone. You can check out
Right.
her.
But it's about, it's about intuitive communication with animals and how it can lift your spirits while also helping the animals.
Okay.
So in the book, I list lots of the stories, some of which are on my website, lightspeak.com.
And can you spell it out for some people?
LIGHTSPEAK.com. So there are some of the animal communication sessions there. And I also have a whole part of the book that's how to communicate with animals.
Okay.
In which I take you through several exercises, including putting the judge to sleep exercise.
Okay. And you don't know when it's going to be published yet?
No,
okay. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that soon.
Right.
And then if someone in New York wants to talk to you in California, do you do virtual?
I do virtual all the time. I do it on Zoom. I do it on the phone. When I do my animal communication sessions, I look at the picture of the animal on my screen and I type. And I sing. Sometimes there are songs that come. Sometimes there are drawings that come. And I include all of that in my report. Because if I'm talking to you about your cat, I can't hear what the cat is telling me. It's one or the other. Either I'm talking or I'm listening.
Okay. So you kind of record it. And
I record it and then I send them a link.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And you can, so if they want to hire you, they can talk to, deceased loved ones, deceased pets.
That's right. Live, deceased, anybody. But they do have to have control over the animal. I won't read an animal that can't be affected. In other words, your neighbor has a dog. The dog has a problem. And if I told you about it, I was talking to the animal will be trusting me.
Yes.
But I'm saying, I'm sorry, this is just for information. They really can't do anything for you because they're not your person.
Okay.
So,
that's good to know.
Yeah. But definitely they can email me, they can call me, and I would love to talk to you about your animal.
Yay. Or your person, right?
Or your person.
deceased
Absolutely.
Family member.
Absolutely. Right.
And for one more clarification, do you consider yourself a psychic, intuitive?
I like the word intuitive.
Intuitive.
Yeah, I'm a psychic, but I don't know. Maybe it's when I grew up because I'm old. Psychics were always like, cross my palm with silver. It was like, it just felt a little like, ugh. But a psychic, yes, I am a psychic. I am intuitive.
Okay.
Both words work.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for listening, everyone. And remember, happiness is a choice. So choose a happy day. And thank you, Leiah.
It's made me happy to be here.
Oh,
thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. To stay connected to me, please visit my website at chooseahappyday.com. And at the bottom, just sign up for my email list to be notified of any upcoming events, book launches, as well as new podcasts. Until next time, have a happy day.